Welcome to Cowboy Up with Tex. Well, we're having a few difficulties here in the station. Hopefully we get those taken care of here pretty quickly. But in the meanwhile, we're on the air with hotnewstalkradio.com. So if you can get us at hotnewstalkradio.com or at Facebook at Hot News Talk Radio, at least y'all are hearing us. Well, you know, we've had a lot of stuff happening the last few days. In fact, the last few weeks. You might even say the last few years, for that matter. And you know what? Americans are just getting tired of it all. Tired of no one speaking honestly to us. Tired of being told we cannot speak honestly. Tired of being told we're wrong. And we're tired of being lectured to by people who actually are doing the very things that they lecture us not to do. And don't even think about expressing our values if those are outside of the elite's standard of everyone deserving equality and fairness. Unless, of course, you disagree with that elitist viewpoint, in which case all you'll get is hatred from them and character destruction as your reward. People are looking at the government with an anger and a frustration which actually Washington does not understand. In the span of a few days last week, Americans witnessed Washington's glaring failure with disbelief. First, we have a Supreme Court that rules on not one but two different major cases and goes directly against common sense and the law. How can the Supreme Court go against the law? Well, we're going to talk about that here in a little bit, about how that two Supreme Court justices should have recused themselves by law and did not. Then we had the government admitted that over 22 million Social Security numbers, fingerprints, passwords, and other personal information of federal workers be used for things like conducting background screenings, passwords on sensitive computers, were all hacked on the Obama administration's watch. We had a whistleblower that leaked an internal Department of Veterans Affairs that showed that more than 238,000 of the 850,000 military veterans with pending applications for health care have died. The VA has just, what are they doing over there? They just, twiddle their thumbs while people die. The FBI admitted that flaws in paperwork and communications between a federal background check worker and state law enforcement agencies allowed Dylan Roof to buy a handgun in South Carolina weeks before he allegedly killed black churchgoers. Meanwhile, they want to take guns from people that are legally allowed guns, but that are getting on like Social Security. And then we had the attack here in Chattanooga. Where was the government for that? This kid had how many different things? He'd been to a foreign nation that specializes in radicalism. He'd been growing his beard. He'd been attending meetings here. He'd been getting, by his own family's admission, more and more problematic. Nobody checked on him. No accountability, no transparency, just a pattern of bureaucratic failure that has cost lives and fueled anger against the government. And the problem is that, the progressives, they lay these traps out there so that anytime you try to speak out about any of this stuff, to give voice to your anger, they've always got reasons why you're wrong, instead of listening to what the problem is. The thing about a debate is one side says something, then the other side has a chance to give their point of view. But progressives do not listen to your point of view because in their estimation, you have no point of view. It's their way or the highway. They do things like lay out an unconstitutional idea like amnesty for illegals. They give it a flowery name like dreamers. And there's the trap. Anyone who disagrees with them is publicly chastised, mocked, ridiculed, called a paranoid racist who just wants to crush the dreams of these poor minority immigrants. What about the dreams of Americans? But see, you say that, well, you just hate Mexicans. You just hate these people just trying to live their lives. Well, what they don't listen to, though, is we don't mind people coming here to America and becoming Americans and following the law. What we're against is people that do it illegally. But progressives have unleashed a war on thought, and since speech governs thought, political correctness is being used to try to change the way we speak and even the meaning of our words. After all, don't believe in same-sex marriage? Well, you're a homophobe. How about not believing in the redistribution of wealth? Well, you obviously hate poor people. Instead of talking about the thought behind it, the whole thing is change the rhetoric so that we are always wrong. You believe in God? Well, that makes you an extremist zealot in their eyes. After all, if there's no God, then marriage can be whatever they want it to be. If there's no God, then they can make the law whatever they want it to be, whether it's moral or not. See, that's exactly what happens when you allow people an inch. They always take a mile. Conservatives need to fight fire with fire. Say exactly what they mean. The left wants to paint this picture of conservative ignorance and bigotry, and I, for one, am not going to allow it. I say what I mean. And if someone tries to paint it any differently, I call them out on it. And you should too. If we don't call them out on it, if we let them get away with it, they think they're right. They think they're winning. And ultimately, they will if we don't stand up to them. You always stand up to a bully to let them know that they cannot win by bullying. You know, the government has one main job. Pure and simple, one main job. What is that job? To protect us. We're told that we're supposed to be enjoying life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, it doesn't say anything about getting happiness. We can pursue happiness, but getting happiness is up to us. But the government's part comes in our life and our liberties. If we don't have our lives, everything else is kind of a moot point. If we don't have our liberty, how can we enjoy our lives or our pursuit of happiness? I mean, it's a simple concept. If there is no country, there's no need for a constitution. And the country is made up of people, not land area. So what does the government do? Pretty much anything but protect us. They did an excellent job of protecting the Marines and that naval personnel that were killed the other day, didn't they? I mean, where was, among other agencies, the NSA? You know, the National Security Administration is a military entity that utilizes the services of military computers and agents. It employs civilians and hires thousands of outside contractors. And after nearly 14 years of spying on us, all authorized by a secret court whose judges cannot keep records of what they have or have not ordered or discuss openly what they know. Doesn't that sound a little unconstitutional? The NSA now has computers and computer personnel physically located in the main switching offices of all telecom and internet service providers in the United States. It has 24/7 access to the content of every single phone call, email, and text message that are done by anybody and everybody in the United States. If there's not a better definition of Big Brother, I don't know what it would be. But there's a problem with that. While they're finding out what grandma's going to be doing on Friday night, which bingo game she's going to be going on, when they're finding out which little league game grandpa's going to be going to so he can watch his grandkids, there's so much information coming in that they don't get a hold of the people like Mohammed Abu Zilis, whatever his name was. Ugh. And they don't catch them. And what good does the previous information do them? It's totally useless information. To us, it's useless. Makes you wonder why the government would even want it. But the data that they get is so vast that the government just simply cannot sift through it all quickly or effectively enough to stop things like not only the attack here in Chattanooga, but the Boston massacre, the Fort Hood massacre, the attack that they tried to do a couple of months ago back in Dallas, there in Garland. Was it the NSA or the FBI that stopped that? No, it was a police officer that was on the scene. Who was it that stopped the guys here in Chattanooga? It was a police officer who was on the scene. Maybe we need to get rid of the NSA and just hire some more cops. The Justice Department acknowledged that last month when it revealed all this spying had not succeeded in stopping, not some, not most, it has not succeeded in stopping any terrorist plots and has not aided one single federal prosecution of terrorism. Then why are they even being funded? Why are they even there? A number of different states have actually been taking the 10th Amendment route and have actually been more or less defunding the NSA in their individual states, doing things like saying that they won't get any help from that particular state. They won't sell them water. They won't sell them electricity, doing whatever they can to make the NSA not welcome, because really all they do is violate the Constitution. And we've got enough government officials doing that as is. We don't need whole agencies doing it. It has failed to protect our freedoms. Pure and simple. The Constitution requires probable cause as a precondition anytime for all search warrants. Well, when this was pointed out, the way they handled it was to have judges brought in secretly who heard what little information they wanted to give the judge, have the judge sign off on a blank warrant so that they could do what they wanted to do. But that finally just got to be so arduous that they finally just have basically done away with the judges, so they just take everybody's. Without this probable cause requirement, nothing can stop the government from searching and seizing whatever it wants. Yet that's where we are today. Their unconstitutional standard of government need reinstitutes the general warrants. Search where you wish and seize what you want, which is what the British did, which is what the Fourth Amendment was written to prohibit. Both the Patriot Act and the Freedom Act, the substitute law enacted by Congress, do away with the probable cause requirement. Both of these laws permit the FISA court to issue general warrants based on the government's needs than on probable cause. When Section 215 of the Patriot Act expired, well, apparently we're getting some of our computer back up. We'll be back with more Cowboy Up with Tex after these words.
give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Arnie Guest Goldsmith, Chattanooga's gold standard in quality, selection, and beautifully handcrafted jewelry. Arnie Guest Goldsmith has 7 jewelers on site and ready to assist you in the design of your one-of-a-kind diamond piece. Arnie Guest Goldsmith, Chattanooga's gold standard in quality, selection, and beautifully handcrafted jewelry. Arnie Guest Goldsmith has 7 jewelers on site and ready to assist you in the design of your one-of-a-kind diamond piece to the perfect affordable handcrafted gem. From just $20 silver earrings to your dream elegant work of art to adorn your finger, neck, and wrists, impressing your friends and family, Arnie Guest Goldsmith will ensure that your budget is met. Planning the perfect wedding or a special event? Then let Arnie Guest Goldsmith assist you in choosing or designing the keepsake that will last you a lifetime. All of Arnie Guest Goldsmith repairs and crafting are done in-house, so you can be rest assured that it will meet or exceed your expectations. For over 30 years, Arnie Guest Goldsmith has served Chattanooga with the finest jewelry and services, meeting only the highest quality and standards. So the next time you think of jewelry, custom design, remounting, appraisals, or repairs, remember Arnie Guest Goldsmith. And please visit Arnie Guest Goldsmith at 5090 Adams Road, Hickson. That's 5090 Adams Road, Hickson. Call 875-2390. That's 875-2390. Or go to jewelryfromscratch.com. That's all one word, jewelryfromscratch.com. Jewelryfromscratch.com. Arnie Guest Goldsmith of Chattanooga.
If you have the DTs, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life. Mention Hot News Talk Radio and get 10% off. We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
When my brother and I opened our first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300-plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets. You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
And we're back with the second half of Cowboy Up with Tex. You know, there again, you can get us not only at hotnewstalkradio.com, you can also get us on TuneIn Radio, even on Twitter. We always have a Twitter scroll going, so check that out. And of course, as always, you can get not just the current show, but some of our older shows on YouTube. Just go to Hot News Talk Radio on YouTube And there you can see things like Digital Drive with Russell, where he talks about new technology, Nuganomics with David Tullis. You can also get me, Tex Luther, with my Cowboy Up with Tex, and get some of my older shows if you want to do that. Okay. Well, one thing that I would like to bring up, kind of diverging for a few minutes from the talking about the events of the past few days. One of the ways that we need to keep our government in charge, keep our government, keep their feet to the fire, is the Supreme Court made a ruling on gay marriage the other day. And to be blunt, this was a very, very bad ruling for a variety of reasons. Well, a couple of constitutional experts have written an open letter to the attorney generals, the governors, and lawmakers in Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, and right here in Tennessee, pleading with them to file a request for a rehearing before the U.S. Supreme Court on the decision that has created same-sex marriage across the nation. Well, I don't know what's happening. We're getting some bleed over. But anyway, the problem is that only officials of the 4 states involved in the case are allowed to request a rehearing. Why do they need a rehearing? Well, let's look at this. Elena Kagan and Ruth Bader Ginsburg acted unethically and unlawfully in participating in the case after they had publicly taken a position on the outcome, which they're not supposed to do. The participation by Justices Ginsburg and Kagan in the Obergefell decision violated federal judicial ethics, not to mention a federal statute. These judges were under a duty to recuse and not participate in that decision. Yet they did. In fact, until that decision was even issued, American people had no way of knowing that these 2 judges had not recused themselves. And now that the decision has been issued, we know that they did participate both unethically and unlawfully. How do we know that they were being unethical? Well, the Code of Conduct for the United States Judges provides a judge shall not make public comment on the merits of a matter pending or impending in any court. It mandates that a justice shall disqualify themselves in any proceeding in which their impartiality might be reasonably questioned. That's pretty straightforward. And everybody pretty much knows that judges are not supposed to participate in trials where they have a vested interest in the outcome. We see it on TV all the time. You know, where, oh, well, the judge's wife was the one that got robbed, so he can't listen to the trial of the person that robbed her. That'd be a conflict of interest. Well, let's take Ginsburg. She performed same-sex wedding ceremonies and made supportive public statements while the case was going on. Kagan performed same-sex weddings and promoted gay rights at Harvard's law school while she was at its helm. Even after being told of the conflict of the appearance of a conflict of interest, Ginsburg again officiated at a same-sex wedding. The pro-gay bias exhibited by Ginsburg and Kagan will leave a cloud over this ruling, which is the last thing this country needs. Roe versus Wade has been haunting this country since the 70s. You think this is going to be any different when people on one side or the other side can point to something and say that wasn't legal? The decision will forever be open to question on whether it was an honest and fair decision of the court or instead was controlled by their personal viewpoints on the issue, which is what's going to happen. What can we do? We need anybody and everybody that has access to a computer or a phone to contact the governor and the attorney general here in Tennessee. We have until tomorrow, which means this is pretty much our last chance. Now, at this time and date, I don't know that a phone call is going to really do much good, but we can email and ask them to revisit this case for the sake of the country, if nothing else. The general arrogance of the majority of the court regarding their powers to vastly redefine the Constitution and the likelihood of this ruling being reversed in a rehearing are not great. But filing this motion for a rehearing is very important because it will officially bring the issue of Kagan and Ginsburg's failure to recuse themselves in violation of federal law into the public spotlight. In fact, there's been a few people out there that have said that they need to be disbarred for doing this and removed from the court. I really doubt that'll happen, although legitimately it should. If a judge breaks the law, they shouldn't be a judge. What do you do when it's the Supreme Court judges that are breaking the laws in this most arrogant fashion? It will reinforce understanding of the overall illegal nature of this ruling. And just remember, folks, the Supreme Court isn't always 100% right. After all, back in the 1800s, they voted for slavery. They later on had to reverse themselves. Well, instead of putting the country through a lot of turmoil, we need to nip this thing in the bud as soon as possible. This spotlights the overall illegitimacy of today's Supreme Court, its unconstitutional approach to shaping our laws, and its illegal power grab, far and beyond what was intended by the founders. I mean, think of this. If the law was wrong, it should be sent back to the individual states to be reheard, to have their state legislators revisit it, instead of them coming down and saying, this is what you will do. They're part of the judiciary, not the legislative. So, if anybody out there is interested, send an email to these are a bunch of letters, so get a pen, paper, crayon, whatever you need, write them down. TNATTYGEN@ag.tn.gov. Basically, it's the abbreviation for Tennessee Attorney General at Attorney General, Tennessee Government. Again, TNATTYGEN@ag.tn.gov. This is important on so many reasons. If we don't stand up to take our country back, if we just hand it over, what this means is that 5 lawyers, not even 9, 5 lawyers rule this country because they can do whatever they want if this is allowed to proceed. If we don't stand up and demand the proper procedures be adhered to, we're just handing this country over to whoever's in charge of the Supreme Court. There might be some liberals out there that actually want this thing to go through. But the thing you got to ask yourself if you're a liberal is this. Suppose the shoe was on the other foot. Suppose Elena Kagan and Ruth Bader Ginsburg were conservatives. And they came out and said that all gays need to be thrown into jail. Period. But because they were on the winning side, that was now the law of the land. We have to stand up for proper procedure from everybody, from the president, from the Supreme Court, all the way down to dog catcher. That's what this country is about. The law applies equally to everybody. And if you don't follow the law, everybody pays the price. These two women are breaking the law and fundamentally changing our country. And it has to be addressed. And remember, today is the last day that we can even participate in this. If we don't stand up, it's nobody's fault but our own. Back to the NSA, another outfit that's breaking the law. Overall, the people in the government are trying to say that we cannot be trusted, that we need to be rode herd on. But we're supposed to trust the Muslims. I mean, overall, the goal of a lot of the government is to increase awareness and understanding that American Muslims are not the terrorists that some have made them out to be in social media and other circles. Well, true, not every person that calls himself a Muslim is engaged in terrorism. But the reality is that because of the teachings of the Quran, you cannot trust what they say. We have to respond to what they do. First off, the Quran tells them to lie to us. You know, last week we were hearing about what a great guy this Muhammad guy is, the one here, the shooter here in Chattanooga. What a great guy he was. Why, everybody, he was a nice kid. Why, we liked him. He never gave us, he was funny. Oh, now all of a sudden, after the weekend, now we're hearing from his family about how, well, he had drug problems and alcohol problems, both of which are prohibited entirely by the Quran, incidentally, but how he was depressed and all this sort of stuff. And all of a sudden, you know, he went from being this great guy to being this total train wreck in the space of 1 week. End. So which time were they lying to begin with, or were they lying now? That's the problem with Muslims. You don't know when they're lying, when they're telling the truth, because they have a religious requirement to lie to us. Virtually all the Muslim mosques, virtually all the Muslim mosques in America are funded by Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia. These Muslim groups are doing just as the Obama DOJ is doing, and that is going after the First Amendment. And the funny part about that is this. The assistant district justice of the peace person here is William Killian. He operates out of the Knoxville office. In June of 2013, William Killian threatened Americans with prosecution and imprisonment if they speak out against Islam. He said, we want to inform everybody what the law is, but more importantly, we want to provide what the law means to Muslims, Hindus, and every other religion in the country. That's why we came here in the first place. In England, they were using Christianity to further their power in government. That's why the First Amendment is here. No, the First Amendment is here so that we can say exactly what's on our minds. We can air our problems, our concerns. And William Killian does not understand that. I mean, which part of Congress shall make no law regarding not only the establishment of a religion, but impeding the free exercise of religion, abridging the freedom of speech, or infringing on the freedom of the press? His claims about federal law in this matter are completely unconstitutional, and he should be removed from office since he obviously doesn't understand what he's doing, what he's supposed to be protecting. And the saddest part of all, he's the lawyer that's going to be in charge of the investigation here in Chattanooga. Talk about a whitewash in the makings. His job is not to find who's guilty. His job, from the top down, is to provide cover. One wonders just how long it will be until we will be forced to defend our freedom of speech with our freedom to keep and bear arms from Islam and its co-conspirators in the government. Voltaire said back, I think it was in the 1700s, to learn who rules over you, simply find out who you are not allowed to criticize. Well, we're not supposed to criticize the president. Oh, you must be a racist if you think Obama's not a good president. We're not allowed to criticize the government, and we're not allowed to criticize the Muslims. I mean, at the same time, here's his name, Mohammed Yusuf Abdulaziz. Couldn't have a simple name like John Smith, after all. Jeez. Investigators said that they're going to connect the dots and immediately labeled the attack as domestic terrorism. Never mind that this guy went to Jordan. Never mind that, he's from a foreign religion. This must be domestic terrorism because he was living here at the time. And you look at President Obama. He doesn't seem to think there's any dots to connect. What happened here was the act of a lone gunman and was a heartbreaking circumstance. Well, first off, if y'all ever heard the term aiding and abetting, his family knew he had guns. They had to know he had guns. He had several long rifles, according to the police statement. Well, you don't just hide those in the house. People see you walking with those. It's not like a pistol that you can kind of hide. His family knew what he had. And if they honestly thought that he was being depressed, possibly suicidal, having problems with drugs and whatnot, if you knew he had guns, I'd have been taking them away from him just for my own safety, much less the safety of society at large. Well, after an hour after the attacks were over, the White House posted Obama's remarks saying that, well, not saying, but they posted his remarks, and despite knowing the name of the attacker and having the sinister warnings from his past, Obama still couldn't bring himself to acknowledge the reality of an Islam-based terrorism. Not once did he mention the words radical Islam, even the guy was Islamic. Not once did he mention jihad or terrorism. How can we fight a war on terror when our commander-in-chief won't even acknowledge who the enemy is or that we even have one? His number one responsibility is to protect us, and he doesn't even know who he's protecting us from. At the time that happened, Obama was busy saying, Michelle and I hope today brings joy to all your homes, both here in the U.S. and around the world, from my family to yours. Eid Mubarak, because it was the end of Ramadan. The end of Ramadan is a Muslim ceremony where they try to get closer to Muhammad and the teachings of Islam. Well, of course, in the teachings of Islam, it teaches kill the infidel, which is exactly what the shooter here in town did. And even after that, Obama claims to be a patriot and supporter of those who serve this nation, but he always fails to come to their honor or their aid. But yet, let's see what else he's done. When Nelson Mandela died, he ordered the American flag flown at half-mast for a person that wasn't even an American. When Michael Brown, a criminal, was killed, he sent a delegation to the funeral and had his Department of Justice investigate the case 6 ways to Sunday. When Freddie Gray died in police custody in Baltimore, he again sent a delegation to the funeral. But when it comes to our service members, ooh, Johnny on the spot. After all, what did he do when Marine Sergeant Andrew Tamarisi got captured and held in a Mexican jail? When people in the Senate were calling on Obama to do something, anything, Obama never even said one word, pro or con. Just totally ignored this Marine sergeant being held in a foreign country. Oh, well, that's not the only one. We had a military official that went to visit his dying grandmother in Iran and was taken hostage. Again, not a word. And when 4 Marines and 1 sailor were killed here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, again, nothing. Many requests have been made for the American flag at the White House to be flown at half-mast to honor these 4 Marines and sailor who were killed by a terrorist on American soil. Flying it at half-mast doesn't have to have anything to do with who killed them. It's honoring their sacrifice. But yet it continues to fly at full mast with no response from our commander-in-chief. How can he call himself a commander-in-chief when he doesn't care about the people that serve under him? I will say, though, the Pentagon has taken swift action to increase security after Thursday's shootings in Tennessee by telling the Marines not to wear their uniforms in public. Thank you for listening to Cowboy Up with Tex.
Give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. By the time the police get there, it may be too late. Arm yourself today. Protect you and your loved ones with a pistol, shotgun, or rifle.
I've got the power!
At Sportsman Supply and Services in Hickson, they offer a huge selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories. In business for over 26 years, Sportsman Supply and Services features an indoor shooting range, carry permit, and handgun safety courses. You know, in Tennessee, you can carry a handgun in your vehicle with no permit. Go to Sportsman Supply and Services today. Sportsman Supply and Services in Hickson, where owner Carl, who's a former owner of Mott Lake Shooting Center, will guide you in deciding on the perfect gun. Looking for ammo, high-capacity magazines, hunting rifles, and accessories? Sportsman Supply and Services in Hickson has it. If you want to save money and ammo, then add laser training as part of your shooting experience. Sportsman Supply and Services in Hickson. Their mission is to provide customers with the best firearms equipment, instruction, service, and indoor shooting experience. Sportsman Supply and Services, 4824 Hickson Pike, next to the Holiday Inn Express. Call 875-4868. That's 875-4868.
Surgery does not have to be financially painful. Hi, I'm Surgical Dr. David Red, and I'd like to invite you to my walk-in surgery clinic in North Shore. Quick Surge brings you immediate relief from moles, skin tags, maybe a laceration. Quick Surge. You walk in, fill out a mini form, I numb the area I'll treat, and before you know it, you're on your way home. Do I take insurance? No, because I take cash customers. I have super low and fixed prices, credit card, check, or cash. Uninsured? Member of the working financially disadvantaged? Choose Quick Surge. I publish prices online. No murk, just sunshine. Hassle-free, pain-free. Love the idea of a personal relationship with a doctor? Drop in with a nasty cut from work. Quick Surge, I'll take care of you. Quick Surge is a public center on the North Shore. No insurance hassles with Quick Surge. The national medical system is dysfunctional, overpriced, very alienating. I'm part of the solution, and so are you. Come on home. QuickSurge.com. QU.